it's always interesting being here with me and having you guys in the audience. Next week, I'm actually going to have one of my favorite people on the planet join me, Miss Robin, who surprised me out of nowhere. I'm curious how many of you have friends that you have that are like, Robin has been my friend since 1980. I was a little green thing starting at her salon, and we just hit it off, and we have been friends for 41 years. I don't even know how that happens, but we had such a good time when she was here, and we talked about some, I just think, really interesting things, and I think important things. And I think that there is something that she does that is really valuable in a relationship that I want her to share. And there's things that she's done in her own relationships that I also want her to share. She presents things ever. I'm thinking it's still connected. It said trying to connect. Tim, if Nick or Tim, if just let me know that we're still connected in here. Somebody give me a thumbs up or something, because my phone just did something weird. We are still in here. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to get into the topic of today, and that would be something that many people are experiencing, and it's anxiety. And it's a very debilitating thing, anxiety and also anger. And especially anger lately is very prevalent, and I wanted to talk about that specifically because there's some things that have been happening that people are unaware of, and it's in kind of the environment. And I've been noticing when the environment gets kind of toxic, like sometimes if you drive into Los Angeles, you can see like this brown haze that hangs over the city as you're driving down the hill. And when we haven't had a lot of rain and we've had, this heat, and there's all these toxins that are flying around, people will get angrier. And you can see it in the way people are driving. You can see it in the relationships. I see it when I'm working with my clients, and there's this anger that isn't really, it's not because of anything like specific. It's just this feeling of I'm very frustrated and I'm kind of angry. So it's super important to understand that sometimes the anger isn't about you, that the anger can be about the environment. And when you're seeing that you're in a rather toxic environment, it's important to take a little bit of a step back and understand that this is your body kind of talking to you. Your liver, which processes toxins, is the seat of the anger. So when you're experiencing that, and it's not something that is like, well, I'm specifically angry about this or that, or I have been in this thing, but I'm more angry right now. It's important to kind of take a time out from, let's just say, eating toxic sort of foods, maybe over drinking. If you're using chemicals in your house like bleach or things like that, start looking into getting things like Myers, products that don't have a lot of chemicals, because it's like at the point where our livers are starting to overwork, and when they do that, liver is the seat of anger in our body. So it's important to kind of neutralize those things and kind of smooth it out a little bit. So the other part of anger is to be constructively communicating more. So whether that's with yourself or someone else. And I get it that sometimes we get into situations in our life where it's hard to communicate because of whatever somebody else is doing. But when we're communicating for ourselves, whatever that thing is, and we're getting it out, it changes everything. As an example, this last session that I just worked with, it was a family. And there was this member in the family that for many, many years has not been expressing. And they have now been letting it out. And the family is really there with them and supporting them. And it's life-changing for all of them, even when this one person is changing. So if there is anger that you're holding towards somebody else, there's a part of it where you want to constructively communicate. And sometimes it's not for the other person, it's for you. And I was explaining to them, and this is for anger or anxiety or whatever, it's like we have so much capacity and within ourselves to hold in emotions. And then it gets to the point where it gets overflowing, it gets too full, and we don't have the ability to control ourselves, and it can turn into feeling ill. It can turn into an explosion of anger, or, saying things, doing things that we really don't intend. So it's important to keep bringing down the waterline on our emotions and working through them in a way that is constructive, like the constructive communication and processing things. With that being said about anger, I want to go into anxiety, because lately there has been a lot of my clients that are in some way, shape, or form dealing with anxiety. And I want to show you what I was drawing this morning. So I have my car analogy, many of you know, and I like to use that. The car represents the body, the driver is the soul, and it's an energy-powered car. And something that many of us do, I like to say that we're driving on the 101 freeway, and we're driving up to San Francisco, and we're picking up all of our greatest intentions. So along the way, we have to pay attention to where we're going. So you see the car, it's at the top of the hill, and we're going along the 101 freeway. But what happens with people, my intention is the greatest health, the greatest love in my life, the greatest peace and joy, and the greatest love. So all of that starts from within us, and we create it. But what I've been seeing is in driving, there are these things that are our controllers. So when you're driving and you're being conscious, you're knowing this is my intention. You're keeping the attention on I'm going. Like, for instance, many of you drive to the grocery store. You literally get in your car. You know you're going to go to the store. You land at the store. You know that you need to pick up whatever items. You have it in your mind. I'm going to pick up these items. You're meeting your intentions. You get back in the car. You don't even think about it. You don't even think about starting the car. You don't think about driving it. You know you're going right back home. It's very much that way in life. The intentions are here on the 101 freeway. They're in San Francisco. So your greatest love is already there. Your greatest partner, your greatest friends, your greatest business associates, all those people that you share love with, your greatest pets, all of it is right there. And your greatest health, your greatest abundance, all those things, you can just say, as I'm driving, I'm going to go like to the grocery store, and I'm going to pick up these things that I am creating. But what happens is, as people are driving, instead of staying on the 101 freeway, what they do is they start going down the hill, and they're driving to a destination that is not the grocery store. They're not getting the items that they want. So their attention veers off, their perception veers off. And so as an example, I'll be driving and I'll be saying, you know what, I'm creating my greatest career. But as we're driving, but I think that all the jobs for someone like me are already taken. I'm too old, or I'm not qualified enough, or whatever it is that people think. Or for instance, relationships. It's like, oh, I never meet the right person. Or I meet the right person and they turn into a jerk or an ass or whatever the thing is. Your mind starts going to what the problems are. And when you do that, and especially with anxiety, getting back to anxiety, with anxiety, we start imagining a possible outcome. So the what ifs are a big one for people with anxiety. So instead of I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to get whatever, it's like, what if I break down in my car on the way to the grocery store? Or what if I get to the grocery store and I don't have enough money for all the groceries and I'll be embarrassed at the checkout line? Or what if I get to the grocery store and, I don't know, something happens there and it's a bad experience? People what if all the time. So instead of being in the car and knowing this is what I'm creating, they're what ifing in their own minds. What if my car breaks down? What if I get sick? That's a huge one. The part of what if I get COVID was a really, really big one. It's a big one still for a lot of people. What if there's a lot of things that are what ifing about with our government at the moment and various things. So instead of being in the car and you know this is what I'm creating, people are imagining a possible outcome. And what happens when we're imagining, we start going down the hill. And if you stop the car here before it gains the momentum, you can keep on the 101. If you check yourself and you say, oh, no, I'm starting to imagine something that's not true, you can literally stop the car. That's nonsense, and I'm going to continue on where I'm going. And you let it go. That's faulty thinking. My mind just taking a little vacay. Another way of looking at it, as you're driving, you're taking a detour, and you've gone off to somewhere like Bakersfield or Lompoc. So it's super important to get the thing with anxiety. It doesn't have to continue to be anxiety. It can be where you start to understand he is an estate attorney. In fact, they know they're driving to the field and they're going to play the game, right? They're going to play that softball game. They're all going to show up. They're going to play their best, and the intention is to win, right? Nobody's in their mind thinking, we're intending to lose or whatever that thing is. But unconsciously, some of the girls could be thinking, oh God, what if I get up to the bat and I'm not good enough? What if I strike out? What if that pitcher, I can't hit the ball? Or what if I'm in the field and I miss a ball? I'll be so embarrassed. There's all these thoughts that are not in alignment with what it is that we want to create. So he is an estate attorney, and they intended and literally got to have the game here at home at Westlake. So when you're looking at all these things, anxiety is a huge one right now. And for many people that are experiencing it, it's not something that is actually happening. It's something that they're imagining that could happen for the future. So when you are feeling, and that's the other part of it, and I can't express to you enough, this happens all the time. People think they need to be mindful. And when you're being mindful, your mind will continue on what I call the victimization loop. It's like you'll have driven and you're all the way down here and you're living in this lack of awareness. So in your mind, you'll be going, oh God, this is horrible. I don't like where I'm at. This isn't working. And you get literally stuck. So it's super important to pay attention to your feeling. The feeling is the thing that's going to stop you at the top of the hill. The feeling is the thing that's going to be like, I don't feel good. I feel anger. I feel anxiety. I'm feeling whatever that thing is. The feeling is the most important part, because we can tell, I'm all tensed up, or I'm, whatever anxiety brings. Like for many of my clients, it's like, I'll ask them, how do you feel anxiety? What is your notice within yourself that you've got anxiety? And they'll tell me, well, I feel tension in my shoulders. I feel sick. I feel like I want to throw up. I feel it in my chest, like my heart really hurts, or my, it's like heart palpitations, because it's now sometimes gone down into panic. So it's important to recognize your body will tell you first. That tenseness will start happening. You'll start to experience whatever that uncomfortable is, more so than if you were paying attention to your mind. because your mind will just keep rolling on the thing. And then finally it's like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking this for 3 days, where your body told you 3 days ago, and you would have caught it back then. So it's super important to understand that anxiety isn't who we are. The other part of it is, I don't think we get taught when we're kids what anxiety is. We don't get taught how to use the information that anxiety brings. You know, what is it you're thinking? What are you imagining? What are those things that are going on in your mind when you're feeling that? So people just think, I'm just anxious. That's who I am. So I went to the psychiatrist and I got put on drugs, and I'm still anxious, but I guess the drugs help. Well, if you're on the meds and you're still anxious, there's something that's not matching up. So there's a process within your mind that you can do to change that over. So I want you to think of it this way with the car analogy. We have all these, let's just call them roads in our mind. And our mind is creating roads all the time. And our mind is kind of like plastic, so it's malleable. So we can change things up in our mind. So when you have an anxiety program that's running, hi Paula, you have a part in your mind that there's a road. It's like, I'm on the anxious road and I think like this, and this is just who I am. It's not who you are. It's what you've learned, and it's how you have been in a habit of dealing with your emotions, or literally not dealing with your emotions. So when you are changing the anxiety, you're, instead of just rolling with it and thinking, I'm going to just go take some drugs to fix it, because it's incredibly debilitating, anxiety is, and it's really, really hard. And it can, you know, when you go down the hill, I call it going down the hill to hell. When you go down the hill and you are rolling around in it, sometimes people just get stuck in it, and it's a very uncomfortable place to be. So when you get, this isn't who I am, it's just something that I'm experiencing, something that I am unconsciously creating, then comes the part of, how do I get out of this? And you've gotten out of there many times. It'd be good to have you on as a guest, seriously. So when you are overcoming it, there's a part of you where you have to look back, and that's why I have that timeline tool. That timeline tool is so valuable, because we don't usually come out of the womb anxious creatures. You know, it's something that is learned. Sometimes when we are in the womb, we have an anxious mother, and we get familiar with the feeling of anxiety, but it's not like we are knowing it. But what happens is, between 0 and 8, if we have anxious parents, they're in the front seat, we're learning in the back seat. Oh, that's just what life is. This is how we roll, this is what we do, and it's just what we know. And then we start creating situations in our life from that. Or, in some of my clients' cases, they didn't have anxiety up to a point where they had an experience that created anxiety. And sometimes it's smoking pot. Sometimes your brain isn't the kind of brain that can smoke marijuana. So they have this unfortunate event that creates a massive amount of anxiety, and then they start having a habit of anxiety, because it is something to overcome when you have a moment like that. Or we've all had our moments in life where we have been anxious about whatever, and if we lock and load the trauma that can ensue in our hearts, it kind of turns into, all right, well, when's the next thing that's going to create anxiety? You know, when's the next thing that something's going to happen and it's going to make me feel that again? Because it is such an extremely uncomfortable feeling, and we don't get taught that was just a moment, and here's how you let it go, here's how you learn from it and move on and own your power. So when we're doing that timeline tool, we're looking at where were the moments where you had anxiety. So it can be any moment. I mean, I had a few moments of anxiety in my life, and one of them was doing exactly what I'm doing right now, talking to myself and Paula and Tim, and if Nick is still in there, And so there was moments for me with public speaking, and it was massively anxiety producing. I mean, when I became a practitioner, I had a panic attack at our mock orals, and this woman was looking at me like, well, I'm not so sure what you're doing here. Nick is here. So in those kind of moments, it turns into, oh, you know, I just am not a good public speaker. I get anxiety, and I get really, you know, it's like my knees are knocking, kind of anxious. And even when I was in my practitioner training, I had massive anxiety just talking to my fellow classmates. And there weren't like a ton of them. And so then I had to literally own my own word and use my tools. And now I'm doing this, and there's not this anxiety because I have learned to work through it. So when you're doing the timeline, you're looking at the different events in your life that have been anxiety producing. What were they? What was happening? You know, what did you experience in that moment? How did you lock and load it in the heart? How did you lock and load it as a habit? And when you're doing the timeline, it's super important. It's never, ever with any judgment. It is always with compassion, and you want to gain understanding. And I want to mention the timeline real quick because it's to me one of my favorite tools that my clients use. I just had 2 people use it today. And you're looking at your own timeline to understand, I am not this. This experience created this. This, whatever it was, whether it's the beliefs that you created in the 0 to 8, experiences, or a feeling of both. And the interesting part of the timeline, when I first understood about a timeline, it was when I was working in a rehab, and the clients were sitting in my chair going, and they were miserable. And I was like, you know, I get it that you're in rehab and everything, but you're like more miserable than usual. It's like, I'm doing my timeline. So it's super important when you're using the timeline. There's all these great moments we've created in our life as well. There's all these magical moments of happiness, joy, love. You know, everybody's had some magical, great moments. So you want to incorporate those in as well. So it can be kind of tricky when you're looking at something like anxiety to literally kind of go there, because it can almost, for some people, be anxiety producing to just like be able to sit back and look at it. But you have to be clear on what the intention is when you're looking at it, because remember, the controller is your belief systems. Intention leads the way. Attention. You got to keep your attention on what you're doing. So when you're looking at the timeline, the attention isn't on reliving the trauma. It's not in re-experiencing it. It's to learn from it. So you're kind of looking at it from a new vantage point of, I don't need to re-experience the trauma, but I do need to learn why I do what I do at this point. So you're looking at it with a new perception and with much more compassion for yourself or anybody that was present in when the anxiety was created. So the reason that you're doing it is because in this moment now, you get to be in a choice point. And that means your intention is, I get to choose calm. So when you're on the 101 of your own life, the intention is, I'm going to be calm. The intention is, I'm going to work through those challenging moments. I'm going to look at them instead of pushing them away. Which brings me to my next subject. You guys can ask questions if you would like. The next topic of this is some of the people that I have worked with that have been the most anxious. They are the people that suppress emotions. And I just can't even say enough. This is in all caps. When we suppress our emotions and we don't deal with them, we don't allow ourselves to work through the emotion, when we you have mastered it all. You are actually mastering it all. You're like kudos. Tim just said on here, I have no questions as I have mastered it all. You have really done a very good job. And I mean, I can't even stress enough. Kudos, kudos, kudos. Yours wasn't anxiety. Well, actually, no, yours was a moment of anxiety. I'm not going to share what that looked like because of the client confidentiality, but sometimes people have no idea that they're even having anxiety. They have no, I've had so many clients that come in and they're anxious or they're angry or they're stressed or they're worried. And I'm like, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. Really? Because your body language is saying something different, and, I'm not so sure about that. And sure enough, and this is many people. In fact, I was just telling my last clients in here, I have had so many clients that have in their life suppressed their emotions. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to cry. I don't want to be angry. I'm not allowed to be angry. When I was angry as a kid, me personally, if I was angry and I was giving my mother a hard time, it would have been really bad for me. So I learned I got to suppress my anger. I got to suppress a lot of things. So when people are suppressing the emotions, there's anxiety. Something's got to give. Something is going to come up. And the thing that I was telling my last clients, one of them who was a bit on the hot seat, it was a family, they were crying and they were like, I really hate being emotional. I hate emotions. And then the next words were, it feels really good to let it out. Or it was backwards. And it's super important when you are learning to deal with your emotions and you allow yourself to cry. I have had people over the years, when they first understand that they can cry, they literally, I had one person, I think they cried straight for like 2 weeks. And they called me up and they're like, I'm still crying. It's still very, and it's like, it's a good thing. Because when you're crying, your body was designed to do that. You're designed to let out all the stuff that gets held in your heart. So when we're crying, I had one person who had like an iceberg. Oh my gosh, it was like an iceberg around their heart. And they were crying in the session, and it was like very rare for them to cry. And I told them, I said, look, your iceberg is melting and it's coming out through your eyes. And they looked at me and it was like, wow. And it was like they could understand, hey, Bridget, it's so good to have you here. And they could understand that their heart was softening up, that brick of ice that was around their heart that was causing them massive challenges in their life. They were able to open their heart slowly but surely, and I'm pretty sure that's the person who ended up having a fantastic relationship that was very unexpected and quite beautiful. They intended and got their intentions because they started to understand the stuff that they had been holding on to. So when you're looking at if you do have anxiety, number one, you got to make it okay. Everybody has anxiety sometimes, unless somebody's suppressing it and they're kind of lying to themselves. Everybody has stress. Everybody has moments of worry. Everybody has, even if it's a fraction, it's part of who we are. It's the contrast of life. So when we're having all what I call fear feelings, anger, anxiety, stress, worry, all of that stuff, it's all good. It's the contrast of life. If we didn't have that, then we wouldn't be able to go to the levels that we go of love, of success, of abundance, and all that stuff. The challenge is people get in the fear feeling, like anxiety, and they live there because they don't know what else to do. They think it's who I am. It's just what I do. And then when they start understanding, oh, these are just my beliefs. These are just from experience. These are things that I have learned to do. Like many people learn, like for instance, I asked somebody recently, what do you do when you're angry? I just get over it. Well, what do you mean you get over it? No, I just get over it. I fight through it and I'm done. So they don't ever say anything. They don't really get over it. They shove it down. And when we shove down all these feelings for any period of time, it's going to bubble up in some way, shape, or form. So make it okay that we have whatever those feelings are. I get angry. I get worried. I get all those things. Hey, Carmen, good to see you. So the trick is make the feelings okay. Make it all right to be whatever they are. And understand this isn't who I am. This is something that I am experiencing. So I get to learn from it. I get to use that information to recognize the belief systems. Many of you have seen this. I point to it all the time. Those belief systems that we have are 95% for most people of what we do on a daily basis. Nick. So, Carmen, you guys are distracting me at this point with your comments. So when you are using anxiety, what you're saying is, I get it, it doesn't feel good, nothing wrong with it, nothing bad about it, but why am I experiencing anxiety? And anxiety, out of all the emotions, actually can be a little bit easier to get into and to look at, because anxiety is that one that we're here and we're imagining something that is not true. So anxiety is that thing, it's like, oh, what if I fail this test? That was a big one for me as a kid. Anxiety for me was, oh, what if I get up in front of those people and make an idiot out of myself? That was back when I had my belief about being stupid. So I would imagine, oh my gosh, and then they come at me with a microphone. It's like, oh, and I was imagining that I'm going to say something, or I'm not going to be able to say something at all. And then guess what would happen? I would not say something at all, or I would have a panic attack and start blathering on and saying things that I was like not thinking clearly about, because anxiety, that's the other challenge of it. When we have anxiety, it's like I tell people in the car analogy, anxiety is that thing where the car is in park and the foot is on the gas, like all the way down to the floor. And on the inside, we're just revving and revving, and it's a lot. And then it's producing a lot of stress hormones and cortisol, and it's like debilitating. And the most important thing is we don't think clearly. So like in my situation, I'm not thinking clearly, and I'm literally saying things that are just ridiculous and in my stupid thinking. So thank God I changed a lot of that, and I'm no longer that mode. So the way that I put these tools together, when you are recognizing I'm feeling anxious, that's when you do that fear into power tool. What is this? I'm anxious. All right, what am I thinking? Oh, I'm imagining something that's not true. Or I'm imagining something that could be true, but I don't want it to be true. So you have to stop the car and you bring your mind back to being present right here and right now. Like in the car, you would be, well, I'm okay, and I'm breathing, and what can I do to continue to be okay? What can I do to bring my car back onto track so that I am creating my intentions and not some anxious consequence? So you're bringing your attention, your awareness back to right here and now, and you're bringing your mind back to the anxious thinking isn't what I want. It's more like faulty thinking. So bringing your mind, using your ability to be calm and bring your mind back to this is what I'm creating. This is where I'm going. And it's a process. So the more that you do that process, like for instance, when I got over my issues with public speaking, I had to start work. I was working in a rehab, and it's like, oh gosh. And I'd have to keep bringing my mind back to, I am prepared. I know exactly what I'm going to say. If something happens, I will be calm and I will deal with it. So I kept bringing my mind and creating a new road in my mind that said, I can do this. I am doing this. And then I started creating one experience after another that matched my intention. And I created where now, here I am, talking by myself in my office all by myself, which has been anxiety producing. And now it's like, it's just what it is. My friend just said the universe has spoken. Wait a minute, bring it back here. So I have no idea what time it is. Anybody want to tell me, or am I going to just find it myself here on my computer? 7:40. So let me think if there's anything else around anxiety that I want to share with you. Anybody have any other emotions that are challenging to work through? Anybody have any challenges that are other than emotion that you want me to help you, show you some tools to work through them? Today can be a, get a good fan. Oh, that was my computer, if you could hear it, my computer fan. Oh, get a good, oh, I see what you mean. Oh, I have to tell you a funny story about that, Tim. When I was taking my practitioner exam, it was an oral exam. So when I did the mock oral exam, I'm working with this woman. I'm actually doing my mock oral with her, and I had a full-out panic attack. Literally, that was when this woman, and I was pregnant at the time with Milena, and she just looked at me like, there is something wrong with you, because I had a full-out panic attack. So then I had to do my orals in front of a panel, and it's with the, Science of Mind, which Ernest Holmes was the founder of Science of Mind. And I was massively pregnant, and I had excess amniotic fluid, and it was July. And man, I was like an anxious mess, and I was hot, and I was huge. I mean, I was beyond huge. When you have excess amniotic fluid, it's like people would just look at me like, wow. So I go into this mock oral, and it's like doing all the work to stay as calm as possible. So I bring in this bag with me with a fan, and I pull out the fan, and I said, so I'm thinking that this fan's going to be okay because it says Holmes on it, like Ernest Holmes. And they all started laughing, and that really helped. And so I flipped that fan on, and I had it right on me, and it actually helped. So you're right, Tim, a fan does help. And bringing in humor helps a lot as well. And I'm looking at your comments here. Amniotic smoothies? I don't even know what an amniotic smoothie is. And the time is time to work through emotions. You're right. What, Holmes? Now you're talking my language. By the way, Carmen is in here with us, and I love Carmen. Carmen is like, you're amusing, and you have a lot of integrity and character, and you are, if I'm going to have somebody sell a home, it's going to be you. I just love you, and I love your family. So kudos for setting such a good example. Yeah, so whatever you do when you're having that anxiety, I know what I wanted to say. There's another part to it as well. When you are in a calm moment, and so in order to get into a calm moment, one thing you can do is you look at my website, and there's meditations on there. I'm going to put some more on. You can use like a little 3-minute meditation, bring yourself down. So when you're in a calm moment, the other part of it is you start imagining, like for instance, when I was in a calm moment, if I knew I was going to be having anxiety over something, I would imagine ahead of time how I was going to be in that. Like for instance, when I was taking that panel, I stood back. Hi, Gloria. I stood back, and it's like, all right, I'm going to pull out my fan, and I'm going to make a little joke about it, and I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to just do the best that I can, and it's going to have to be good enough. And I just kept reassuring myself well ahead of time so that I'm setting the road for myself. This is the intention. And yes, I still got anxious doing it, but it was nowhere near the panic attack that I had for those mock orals. So when you are in a calm moment, you look at your own life. What's the best way for me to be calm? Like I have some clients sometimes when they are having, like they have to go in for an interview or something. I'll make them a little 3 to 5 minute voice memo. They'll sit in the car ahead of time and they'll listen to me calming them down and redirecting and having them own their power as they go into that interview or whatever the thing is. So there's a part to it where you intentionally look into the future and you set it up for yourself. This is what I am creating. So I get it that I could feel a little anxiety. So you maybe take that feeling, and sometimes it's in the body, and you can feel like, I don't know, people talk about butterflies before you go on stage. So instead of it being anxiety, it's like, oh, the little butterflies are moving around in there and it's okay. I'm going to calm them all down. Or however it is, it can be any way that works best for you. Sometimes with athletes, you have them run around the block or whatever to get some of that adrenaline out. So you look at your own life and you take charge and you say, this is what I will do the next time that this thing is going on. I will own my ability to be present, and I will, whatever that thing is, and write it down. When you're writing things down, it locks it in even more. It's a, I'm not going to get into that, but it really will help. So writing it down in your own handwriting, not printing, handwriting, and maybe put it up somewhere that you will see it on a regular basis so that you are continually reprogramming that road in your mind. Yeah, nervous and excited have the same kind of feelings, and it's how you look at it. You're exactly right. So there's another part of it, and thank you, Carmen, because you can look at this and it's like, am I nervous about this, or is this just the excitement? You know, what is, and you start defining it for yourself on what exactly you have going on. And actually, Carmen, you brought up another point that I like to mention. I had somebody in my life who kept telling me I'm anxious, and it's like, what are you, and finally it was like, literally, what is going on with you? What are you anxious about? And they told me what they were anxious about, and it was like, well, you're not anxious, you're angry, and you're not expressing the anger. So sometimes we define things in our mind what it is, and it's not really what we're thinking. So maybe sometimes with that, it's really important to step back and look at what is the definition of anxiety for you. And sometimes it can look like anger. It can look like other things. Like this person in my life, I looked at them and I was like, you're not anxious. That what you're describing is anger. And they were able to step back and be introspective with it and look at it from a new vantage point. Oh, this is anger. This is an anxiety. And then what do you do with the anger? You know, how do you then change that anger over? I got some of my favorite people coming on here now at the end. I'm just about to be done pretty soon in about 12 minutes. Miss Cheryl Vassar and Gloria, nice to have you guys on here. How is everybody doing? It is a very hot day in LA. And I got to play with a little baby today. Got to play with my granddaughter. She's just so cute. And again, you know, dealing with a little baby at that age. Carmen, your family is the most favorite, and you're part of the family, so you are in there with the favorites. But you and I don't have the kind of time like I have with the wonderful women in your world. So that part of it with parents as well, you know, and dealing with children and how the emotions will come up. Sometimes there is anxiety over what could possibly happen with our kids. You know, we start imagining possible scenarios. That's another anxiety producer. Parents, you know, being a parent, those little people will bring up everything in your wheelhouse of stuff. You know, kids will, they'll be the ones to help us grow quicker than anything. So it's important as a parent, when you have anxiety or worry or stress about something that you're imagining that your kid could possibly do, there's a part of it where you have to reel it in And I've done this with all three of my girls. I've imagined, especially the thing about driving, that's that one for me. So I have to bring back my anxiety around it, and I have to say, they're fine until I know otherwise. They're all great drivers, they're all capable, they're all excellent, and they'll be fine. And if it's something, like for one time I had this feeling with my oldest daughter that there was going to be an accident, and I kept, in my prayers that we talked about last week, I kept saying, she's fine, whatever's going on with her, it's all going to be just fine. And I got the phone call. It was a rainy, I'm pretty sure Monday, and she called me and she's in tears. Mom, I just got into an accident. And then this woman came up and she's like, oh, are you okay? And I recognized it was a fender bender, literally on both sides, but she was fine. And it was like, literally got off the phone with her, and I started dancing around my living room because I was like, whew, it's all good. So when you're a parent and you start imagining stuff with our kids, and maybe it's because of past behavior, maybe they did behavior in the past, like for instance, when I work in a rehab, a lot of parents are highly anxious because of the obvious. And it's really important, and I have these conversations with them, it's like, they have just been through the dark night of the soul, and now they're on the other side of it. So you as the parent can't be anxious about what they could possibly do. You have to keep bringing your attention back to their owning their power. They're working through it. They're owning their ability to be in these new habits, be in this new way. Because when we're anxious, it doesn't serve them. It's energetically creative. So we have to bring our awareness back to they're powerful. And it's a practice to do. Because I got to say, we love these little people that turn into big people and make their own choices. So we have to keep bringing it back to, even if they go through a hard time, a challenging time, being a parent, that's where they own their power. That's where they learn. That's where we all learned. That's where we all grew. So it's super important to be aware of what our feelings are when it comes to other people. And parents have a lot of power with our children. You know, they look up to us. And when we're feeling anxious about something, or when we're imagining what they could possibly do, that doesn't serve their moving forward as well as it serves when we're saying, you know what, I trust you. I believe in you. I know that you are able to own your power to work through this, to be whatever that thing is that they are choosing to be. So it's important to really get that piece, because it's a challenge for a lot of parents. Let me see what you guys have said. Oh no, I thought you started it. Oh, are you in your pool and in the AC? Oh, you're not in your pool right now. You've been in your pool and your AC. And Carmen's out of here. And he says, thank you for all you do. We have to listen when we get the feeling. And you're right. That's so much of life. Oh, yeah, you got the feeling. I knew she was going to get into a car accident. We got to remember, we are intuitive souls. We're able to really intuit things. I mean, Nick is Mr. Metaphysical. He does that all the time. And as I've gotten older and more calm and more conscious, I can sense things more than I ever used to. So this, I don't remember, this was years ago with my oldest, but there was a part of me, I kept knowing there's going to be something. It's like a car accident. I kept feeling it. And I didn't put a lot of attention or energy on it. I didn't go into getting very worried about it. I kept being, no, she's going to be fine. It'll be okay. You can imagine I'm putting like bubble gum around her car and knowing whatever this is, it's going to be okay. So when we get that feeling about stuff, again, sometimes people want to say, oh, I had this feeling about something. I don't want to go there, so let's just push it away, which doesn't do anything but push it down, and then we're in the unconscious feeling of it. And so it's still rolling. So when I acknowledge the feeling and it's like, oh, I don't even know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to hold her in the highest. So when I tell people I'm holding you in the highest, I'm already imagining in my mind and in my heart the highest and best is happening. The highest and best is happening for the whole situation. You know, divine right action is taking place. So I bring my heart over to calm rather than worry. I bring it over to feeling excited, actually. Sometimes my clients come in and they've got all kinds of stuff going on, and I have to bring my feeling and my awareness, my consciousness over to, I get it. It's a hard moment. And as you get on the other side of it, you're going to be more powerful. And that old belief is going to be transformed into a new belief that is empowering for you. So I continually bring my awareness over to knowing the truth of my clients and holding them in the highest. It's not just my clients, it's the world at this point. I mean, sometimes when I'm looking at all the various forms of news that I look at, I have to bring my consciousness to there are solutions happening. There's a lot of good happening. We're moving into a new humanitarian world. We're changing what is not working into what can work, what is working. So it's this continual process, because if I live in it, there can be anxiety there. If I live in it, there can be all kinds of crap in there. So I have to keep bringing it back to what I can know. And because we are energetic beings, when we're thinking and we're feeling, we're literally putting that out into this quantum intelligent universe. And it's very creative. So I don't want to be in fear. I don't want to be in doubt. I don't want to be in anything that looks like that. So I recognize it, and I know my power to not live in it. So when you are dealing with any of those emotions, especially anxiety, keep bringing it back to what can you know? Be present in your car right now. And this is what I am intending. I don't intend for the world to be a horrible place. I don't intend for more wars, famine. I intend for humanity to step up. I intend for this to be a better place for all of us. I intend for these divisive things to be done and for everybody to get. We all have the same blood. We are the same. We're all connected. We are all one. So when I hold that in the highest, it's a prayer. When I hold it in the highest, I'm literally sending out that wave of energy, and it catches. It catches here and it catches there, and it is creative. And I don't have anxiety. I don't have worry. I don't have dis-ease going on. So I'm not unique. I'm not special in all of that. We're all very creative. We all have quantum computers, quantum energy fields that talk to quantum energy field computers. And we are all very creative. So your homework is, look at what's going on. Have you been having any anxiety, any stress, any worry, any anger? Learn from it. Do a timeline. Get what's going on with you and understand your power to change it, to learn from it, to grow from it, and to move forward. Paula, I will give you a call. So nice to have you join us. It's 1 minute. I have talked all this time and I'm like, huh. So cheers to you, all of you. Thank you so much for joining me in this conscious mind tripping journey. Spirit told me to do this, I'm telling you. And I don't know exactly what's going to come out of all this, but I can't even express to you when I see your names on there and you guys join me. It really makes this so much easier. I'm really not used to talking like this. I mean, I am with my clients, but not here all by myself like this. So I would love to have you join me next Tuesday for Mainstream Metaphysics. Actually, it's Join Us. Nick will be able to be on. And next week on this show, Conscious Mind Tripping, you must be here because we're going to have so much fun. I got my BFF, one of my BFFs, Robin, She's going to join me, I'm pretty sure. And it's going to be a very interesting conversation. When her and I get together, it's fun. Gloria, I love you too. So much. It's been a lot of years with you as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Gloria, Paula, Bridget, Carmen's already out of here. Nick was on here. Gloria, another Gloria. Tim. And Tim, you know what? I would love to have you on here as well at some point. That would be fun. Anyway, my time is up. Thank you all so much. I look forward to seeing you soon. And if you have any, if you want information about Nick and I, we are at newmontcenter.net. And our phone number and everything is on there. And me individually is audreynewmont.com. And I have a resource page on there with a lot of good stuff, and a meditation page if you are having moments of anxiety. It'll help bring you back down so that you can think more clearly. So go and have a fabulous week, and I love you all very much. Take care. Bye.